my friends. Well, it's another rainy day in Vancouver. You can probably hear that rain on the roof right now. This video is going to be about kind of like the biggest fear that I have revisited and how van dwelling factors into that. And as I discuss this topic, I'm going to show you something that I find interesting. Interesting faces. Human beings, I find fascinating. We're all so different. We look different. We think different. And our personalities are so different. So, about a year ago I made a video. I don't know if it was a year ago. It was a while back. I think it was around a year ago. I made a video about my biggest fear. And it hasn't changed. And in fact, recently, I think I was talking to somebody or I read it somewhere and they explained the situation, and it just like made me rethink about my biggest fear. So it is this. Right now, I'm 46 years old. I'm in very good health. I'm very capable of looking after myself. And, you know, I can live in a van. I can rough it out. I can tough it out. It's no big deal. But if it is a big deal, I can still just suck it up and deal with it. But as I get older, that is not going to be the case. There is going to be a day when I'm no longer able to look after myself. And that's my biggest fear. What's going to happen? And so the story that I recently heard was about a very old man in a nursing home that was run by the state. And that's the thing. If you're living in a nursing home run by the state, you're getting basically the lowest quality of care. If you have lots of money and you can afford to pay $4,000 or $5,000 and up a month to get the best of care, then you're golden. That's awesome. But for those that don't have the financial ability to have that quality care, they get kind of like the bottom of the barrel. And this story reminded me very much of that. And in the story, there's this old man who's no longer able to feed himself. And the male nurse that's feeding him, or male caretaker, whatever you want to call him, wasn't happy with the way that he was, the speed at which he was eating his food. So he actually slapped him in the face. And somehow the person's parents or the person's children found out, I guess, or someone close to him found out, and they managed to install some kind of camera in the room, something to that nature, and they discovered what was happening. So that's how they knew that he was being abused. And elderly abuse is not uncommon in nursing homes that are kind of at the lower end of the spectrum. So that's my biggest fear, is once I'm no longer able to take care of myself, what kind of situation I'm going to find myself in. And this is kind of how this all interacts with van life, is that I'm not a guy who wants to be on the rat race, you know, the wheel that just turns and turns and turns. You got to succeed. You got to define success like us. You have to have thousands and thousands of dollars in the bank. You have to own a multi-million-dollar or hundreds of thousands of dollar house. You have to have this really expensive vehicle. Otherwise, you're not a success. I don't buy that. And I think a lot of us in the van life agree with that. I recently saw a sign on the Vancouver Van Dwellers Facebook page that said, career this way, beach, rest, beer, camping, relaxation this way. And, you know, the VW bus, the cartoon is of a VW bus going this way. And I think a lot of us are kind of in that mindset. However, the danger is, if we don't secure our financial future, we could end up in the state-run nursing facility or old age facility where we're treated very badly and we're abused. And that's the really fearful thing. I mean, I'm not a person who lives my life in fear. I know people that do, or at least I knew people that do live their life in fear, and it's not a thing I do. If something bad happens, deal with it when it happens the best you can, but don't worry about it in advance. I mean, that's just causing yourself more anxiety, and how is that helpful? It's not. So balancing van life and the choice not to be part of the rat race versus looking after yourself in your old age, that is the challenge. Right now, I'm kind of reaching my potential, I believe, in my current career. It's quite challenging. I'm very experienced at it, but there are always, how can I put it? Challenges. It's not like if you do this and this, the equation is going to result in this. No, that's not the kind of job I have. It's always an uncertain situation as an outcome, and there's so many variables in play that you cannot predict the outcome. All you can do is try to prepare and plan for it as best you can and hope that the outcome goes the way it should. And if it doesn't, then there are things that you can do to help the situation improve. But that makes it more stressful, and it goes on and on and on. I'm not going to, at this time, I'm not going to reveal what I do for a living, but it's a very interesting job. It's very challenging, and I make good money at it. So much so that I'm able to work 3 days a week. But I'm at work 3 days a week, but I actually work 5 days a week, I'm finding. I just started this position a few months ago, and I'm finding that in order to be, it's a salary position, so even though I'm at work 3 days a week, I'm expected to have all the work done I need in order to fulfill my responsibilities in the job. And that means I have to do a lot of work outside of work. So on my days off, not all of my days, but usually Wednesdays and Thursdays, I'm working at the library and getting things prepared. Yeah, so I'm working hard, I'm making good money, but it's not coming for free, that's for sure. It's a challenging job and I enjoy it. But it's about striking the balance between enjoying life and not being on this rat race versus having enough financial stability to look after myself properly, pay my child support payments, and make sure my kids are looked after properly, they have good winter jackets, etc., etc., and that I'm prepared for the future. And one thing I've noticed a lot in the van dwelling community is that some people live very footloose and fancy free, you might say, and they just, you know, take off on down the highway with a van from the 80s, and oh, there goes the transmission, or there goes the head gasket. Well, that's thousands of dollars, which they don't have because they're not prepared. I'm kind of like, I go to the other extreme where I try to prepare as much as I possibly can for the inevitabilities of life. So yeah, but anyway, I could go on and on about that, but my concern about those people is what happens when they get old. It's tough, you know, it's really tough because You know, you don't want to be that guy getting slapped in the face by the nurse who thinks he can get away with it because nobody's looking, because he's frustrated by some behavior that you have. And unfortunately, his mentality is he can abuse you and get away with it, and kind of take his frustrations out on you. I don't want to see anybody in that situation. So I would hope that people might take that second thought and think about their life in the future and what they can do to be better prepare. I'm very fortunate in my younger years, my teens and my 20s. I worked at a job that paid very, very well. It was a union job, and I made really good money, and I managed to get myself through university. I didn't graduate university till I was like 32, but you know, I lived on my own and I paid my own way, so it was like, you know, either pay the bills or pay tuition. And there were more than a few times when I didn't have enough money to pay tuition, so I had to skip a semester or take 1 or 2 courses because I couldn't afford the full load. And this is years ago, before the tuition is like, you know, you talk to a student these days and the amount of money they have to pay is way higher than what I had to pay. So I was very fortunate that I had a good paying job, and even though I hated that job with a passion, I worked in a grocery store in the produce department, I hated it with a passion. But the really good thing about it was that it motivated me to stay in school, stay in university, pursue higher education. And even though I hated the job when I had to work Saturday and Sunday, and I was like, man, I hate this job, I realized that, hey, if you're not going to school, guess what? You're going to be stacking bananas for the rest of your life, pal. Well, maybe not for the rest of my life, but I know a lot of people that I worked with were very, very bitter about the situation they found themselves in. They bought, you know, a $30,000 car, they got themselves into a condo, and now they have thousands and thousands of dollars in debt. They have a grade 12 education, and they're basically going nowhere. And they were very, very bitter. And, you know, I would take the bus, and I would have a rain jacket and an umbrella, and if it's raining, you're prepared, and it's no big deal. And they would make fun of me for taking the bus to work while they drove around their big fancy car with a nice stereo system. But, you know, in the end, my education paid off, and I'm making good money, working, you know, technically 3 days a week. Well, maybe not technically. Working a lot, but I'm still, I can see the end of the tunnel when there may be a day where I can work a lot less and just work 2 or 3 days a week and have my bills paid and everything taken care of for the future. So there's kind of like a little bit of my financial philosophy of life. Work hard, be prepared. Don't be a burden to people. I mean, I'm a very, probably figured this out already, but I'm a very liberal person. I believe in helping others. I believe in social safety net. I believe that nobody should go hungry. I believe no child should be in a situation that is, you know, where they're hungry or they're not looked after properly. I believe in that. But as an adult, I also very much believe in the more conservative ideal of self-responsibility. And I'm not a conservative by any stretch of the imagination, but one thing I do think they have right is being responsible for yourself and making sure that you are doing whatever you need to do to look after yourself. All right, guys, there you have it. Thanks for watching, and be well, my friends.